Yeah, baby. That's right. That's right. I think I'm depressed, but I'm not sad, says Nate, so I can't tell. Truly, the depressed, I'm not muted, the depressed want to be sad. If you find yourself depressed and then all of a sudden you're sad, you've actually healed. You've actually improved. You've gone up a level. Depression is not a sadness. Depression is a lack of pression. It is a lack of prescience. Imagine yourself in a room with no tangible parts. A single color occupies your entire sensation. The single color is so singular that it loses its value. It is no longer blue. It is something else. Grayness would be the closest you could call it. It is a sense of non-synaptitude, sinusal rhythm. It is a zero amplitude of cycle. And you know what we call that? We call that, weirdly, we call that healthy. Society tells you that that when you are undergoing no change, that you are considered healthy, that you're stable, that your lack of change is the divine romance, the closest posture you can come to being that stillness that has nothing. And this nothingness makes you completely harmless. And so everyone wants you to do that. Everyone wants you to be that way. So we've invented the word bipolar, which means alive. You are alive. When you are bipolar, you are simply amplitudically higher than everyone else. Depression is amplitudinal challenge. You were challenged to be sad. You wish you could be sad. And you know what? You're lucky if you even wish you were sad, because the concept of wishing is a kind of desirous compass that gives you something. The closest way to describe depression, in my opinion, would be to picture yourself, you've got the catchiest sailboat you've ever made, the hottest, perfect vessel you've ever created, and there is no wind. And it is glass. And there is nothingness. That's depression. And you are not sad. Sad is what you want to be. Can you hear music? Or is this me? Is this just in my head? Are we snuffleupagussing today? Are we gonna do this? The collies' favorite food is melon. Their favorite lettuce is arugula. Arugula. Oh, snuffleupagus, you're here to talk about Columbus. Oh, we will snort the happiness of sadness, we will. The happiness of sadness, the gift of feeling something. That's right, snuffleupagus. We learned last time. Dude is Cuban. That's who he is. That's right, can't be sad listening to music. I shouldn't talk, really. This is good stuff. This is La Rumba de la Isla by Equip del Norte. That's right, guys. Welcome to the show. It's Friday. Venus Day. Something said. So I heard it through the lovely grapevine. Guys, grape juice is pre-fermented. I don't know if anyone's ever told you that. Really no chattel. 322 was Sunday, and we missed it. I wasn't with you. You were in your private Idaho. I was in my private Idaho. We were doing our own things. But Sunday was 322 Day, and some of you have not accepted your eternal place as a Luciferian agenda philologist, an alchemical changeling. You have the ability to tweak this world. You are a frequency prankster, as we have found. Buttons available in the shop. They're not actually available in the shop. I do have buttons, but we decided you can't sell them. You have to find them. I think some of you had to reach into a sarcophagus to get them. Music is too. Thank you. That's good to know. Yeah. You can't hear the music now though, so that's all behind. Thanks everybody. I will work on the music volume. But 322 Sunday, that day, that 322 day, everything's good now, right? You guys are now telling me the music's too loud. Sorry. I think everything's good. I think that what's happening is we're experiencing a time lag. There's a portal, latency portal. A lot of people have this myth that there's like a now, but now is actually a subjective term that you create. An event horizon. We could still hear the music. I am stumped. Huh. Like there's not even anything playing. What's going on? Huh. That's so weird, guys. All right, well now at least Adrian's no longer sad. So hopefully some of you are sad that the music's too loud. You're welcome. You're freaking welcome. Sunday, I know you is good. Okay, good. Thank you. Really confusing, but I have a lot of ghosts. By the way, someone wrote, I'm getting a text message. Hang on. Good now. Thank you, Renee. Thank you very much. I got a text message. No, wait. I forgot what I was going to say. James, just get to it. Okay. 322 was Sunday. I'm just going to move on. 322 was Sunday. Sorry for technical difficulties. And you as a frequency prankster, some of you haven't claimed that power, so you don't like 322 day. You're just like, oh, 322, that's when all the fucking evil shit happens. It's like, no, that's when all the change happens. 322 is when all the change happens. 322 is when all the Masonic guys who have honestly gotten into a coffin, sarcophagus, and face their deepest, darkest fears. And emerged and said, we're going to be the farmers of the world. We're going to change the world. We're going to be sitting here. We think the world's full of a bunch of pedophiles too. Turns out they thought that first. You didn't know that, did you? Turns out they thought that first. Turns out that pedophilia wasn't even like an issue for a long time. It wasn't even like a wrong you did. It took a special group of people to be born first, to be woken first. And we're like, hey, you guys are diddling kids. And everyone else just like, what diddle mean? And that took a while. It took a while to grow. Consciousness is a cabbage that has different layers of growth. And a fresh cabbage looks at a complex cabbage as Wetiko cabbage. It's true. They see that as a Wetiko thing. On 322 Sunday, what I'm getting to is this guy, Christopher Columbus, was placed in Eisenhower Executive Office Building in Washington next to the White House on Sunday, March 22, 2026. Trump did this. Trump's he's the president of Magistan or some shit like that. But it's like some president was just like, oh, we're going to put this statue up on 322 Day. And what's interesting about this is that this is the same statue. It's a replica of the statue because guess what happened to the original? But on July 4th, 2020, Columbus, this same statue was torn down off his pedestal in Baltimore and sunk in the harbor. Same one. I love this power, this concept. You see how powerful these figures are, these icons are. I think Columbus is a complex man, and you could call him a conqueror, but honestly, he was kind of an idiot. He didn't really. I'm profoundly moved, ladies and gentlemen, by the simple decade that separated Columbus from Cortez. A decade. Cortez was what, 7 when Columbus was like world famous. So obviously Cortez sees Columbus as like a hero. It's like, oh my God, this dude did all this shit. I want to do all this shit. And Cortez did all this shit. So there's that 4-minute mile thing. This young cabbage is seeing an older cabbage, but I could not believe how entirely stupid the older cabbage was, how completely misguided and how aloof and how many errors Columbus made, and how fitting it is that a certain president would be like, yeah, we need to fucking bring that statue out again. We need to worship this mofo. We need to do that. Now, last time we had discussed, the Snuffleupagus thing is not a rumor. Last time we had discussed Cuba, and I'd reminded you or told you, whichever, that, 1450 Cuba, you've got about 350,000 people, and that these people are made up of 3 different groups. the Guanahatabe. Oh, you guys, you Guanahatabe. And then your Siboney. And then your Taino. We talked about the Taino. The Taino were actually sort of this migratory sect that came from the south and Venezuela, you would maybe want to call that, and that occupied the eastern shores of Cuba. And basically, the Taino were the more advanced, the Wetiko, that the Guanahatabe were the more primitive people, the Havanaans, the ones that we would eventually pull Havana out of their bones, were the indigenous themselves, and that they were already occupied by a larger sort of consciousness, a more complex cabbage, so to speak, in the people of the Taino. And it was here where Columbus first landed in Cuba, mistakenly claiming it as China. Why was he mistakenly claiming it as China? You could say because he had this map, and this map showed him the entire known world, and he deduced that he could get to China. This is Africa right here. And if he was to launch from the bosom of Africa, that he would be able to make it to China. And this map was using a different mile. They will tell you a different measure of the mile. This is a Islamic mile, basically, versus a Christian mile would be one way of looking at this. And all that's interesting, but I think what's even deeper is what was on that map. This map that I just showed you is about 5 feet wide, 3.5 feet tall. It's a big map. And it is Taino. Taino. Is that a pronunciation? If so, let me have it. I would love to be able to pronounce this stuff better. But yeah, this map is 5.5 feet wide by 3 feet tall. It's scribbled with a bunch of things. A lot of these things were copied from earlier maps. It's not really important as much, but I want you to have in your mindset what Columbus had in his mindset. And I think that the decade between these two people is much more vast than you think. I think you're looking at a mythological kind of consciousness, a Columbus, old school kind of boomer sort of thinking. And you've got Cortez, it's almost like the difference between imperialism and capitalism. And imperialism is sort of waiting for someone to dictate what it is that they're allowed to think, while capitalism is more just I just want to be fucking greedy and just solve whatever case I want. Both these things are avenues to truth. An imperially righteous family is a singular monopoly on what is considered righteous. You have a direct conduit, right? Like a papal conduit between you and God. This gives you an orthodox kind of way of accepting things. Then you have a much more satanic approach. I mean this kind of in a more earthen perspective, but a satanic approach of capitalism, which really is more about just survival and what works on the street, even before the street is a street, right? What works in the jungle. These are very different mindsets. The first mindset, I think, is a much more ignorant kind of mindset. It's kind of a beast of burden. I want you to see Christopher Columbus as kind of a simpleton. He still has greed. He still has viciousness. But his overall approach is an indoctrinated simpleton, a kind of yoke that's been given to him. But for once, we're talking about yoke and not necessarily a positive way. So on this map, the Panoti, located in Southern Asia, these are people with ears. Their ears are so large they could use them as sleeping bags. Another mentions the presence of sirens in the Southern Ocean, right? There's just these chicks, man, they ain't got no shirts on, and they hang out in the ocean, and when you go by, you're lured by their calling, and they bring you to your shore, and you get drunk, and you die. You never come back. Well, how'd you know about it? Because one of the guys he was kind of gay. He's just like, I don't really like women. And the sirens are like, well, we need a merman. And then the merman was like, man, he came, but then they got along. And then they were just like, dude. It's like, what's up, dude? It's like, dude. So merman didn't make it. It's just pay attention, guys. You got the sea dragons found in the Indian Ocean, right? These are sea dragons, and they fight whales. This is probably squid, probably cetacea, Sasquatch. It's a sort of a Sasquatch sea monster creature. Text in Northeast Asia describes people who live without corn and without wine. They are corn Julios, right? And who mostly eat deer. And they also ride the deer like horses. That's convenient. It's like, don't tell the deer. And then they say that the Chersidras or Celadras are very dangerous, is found here. It's a serpent that makes the ground smoke. Here are found the hippopodes. They have a human form, but the feet of horses. Keep in mind the hippocampus is named after this word hippo, which means horse. Some of you guys don't know that. You may be confusing because you're just like, why is a hippo and a horse? And it's Henrietta Hippo has nothing to do with this. I just wanted to drop her name because you guys know Henrietta. Come on. We have fun learning what we don't know, right? And have a human form, but the feet of horses. The hippopodes reads one previous Central Asia. Another describes monsters similar to humans whose ears are so large that they can cover their whole body. And many of these have been traced to ancient Greece. And you got the orca, like the sun when it shines, whose form can hardly be described except that its skin is soft and its body huge. And the entire maps is basically inscribed with this. Although in the bottom left-hand corner it says, although Strabo and Ptolemy and the majority of the ancients were most assiduous in describing the world, we, however, bring together in this picture and carefully shown in their true places the new knowledge that escaped their diligence and remained unknown to them. This is the psyche of Columbus. This is science. This is why I call all science scientism, because when you are inside of scientism, this looks like science. This is science. And we've talked about the etymology of science with science, right? And it's like, that's the etymology. It actually comes from that song, science, right? And it's like, he blinded me with science. It's like, exactly. It's a knowledge. The etymology of the word knowledge is not what you think it is. Knowledge doesn't mean what is true. Knowledge is what is known. This is akin to lore, right? Columbus was a Lorian. Do you understand? He was a Lorian, not a DeLorean. That came later, okay? Get your history right. He was a Lorian. He focused on the lore. And this is why nonfiction came after fiction. That you have to understand how the psyche worked. And when you start to see just how dumb Columbus was, it really does come down to this is all he's got. These are the tools that he has. And his frontal lobe, I think, his own individual ego does not have enough faith or commandment to go, dude, let's just fucking figure this out. He tries. But keep in mind, this is where we got the dog-headed people. We've talked about these guys before, the cynocephaly. This is where we get the idea of it being full of cannibals. He had taken things from as old as Pliny the Elder and Pierre Daly to hear these ancient stories. And not only did he hear them, he was actively producing them in the world. The technology of belief allowed him to only see what he can see. Ladies and gentlemen, lean in, please. There is an anecdote, and I love anecdotes. Yeah, I love anecdotes. There's an anecdote that the people, when they came out to see Christopher Columbus, could not see the ships until they were explained to them. They described them as floating mountains. This anecdote does well to explain the psyche, the bicameral minds things we talk about, where the aperture is not able to process certain things, either through fear or a lack of context, a lack of prehistory. Keep in mind the hippocampus, again, there's the horses. The hippocampus is constantly reminding oneself, hey, not just you, but your grandparents, your great-grandparents, out of everything that I've ever seen, this is really interesting. This is really tickling me in a constellation in my Plato brain, in the hemispheres of my lobe, that's never been tickled before, or was tickled thousands of years ago when you're awakening it. We call all this mythology. We relate the memory that we have of mythology, I swear to you, is just simply a constellation that has spark. It's a circuit that's on. How is it on? You allow it to be on because you have an awareness of it. You look for reaffirmations of your constellations in your mind all the time as you navigate the world. And you and I do this better than Columbus. Columbus does this horribly. So when the people are telling him, Caribs, these dudes are kind of bad. They treat us bad. They try and kidnap us. He says, oh, they're trying to eat you. And they say, yeah, eat. They're trying to ingest us. Yes, exactly. Yeah, they take our bitches away, right? It's always about taking bitches away. If you go back to Rome, seriously, like every motivation is like, look, they got bitches. We got to take them away. And the bitches are like, oh no, this is happening again. And it's, everyone knows what you're doing. All of you. It's delightful. This is a fertility cult. And I know we can't call it a fertility cult because we're too busy being in the middle of a fertility cult, but it's fertility cults, okay? It is. It is. And you can't really blame Columbus. Because he's on Fantasy Titty Island, guys. He's in this new world, and he's seeing the most docile, healthy specimens he's ever seen. He describes them that way. This is from the Journal of Christopher Columbus, 1492, Thursday, October 11th. That we might form great friendship, for I knew that they were a people who could be more easily freed and converted to our holy faith by love than by force. All right, waiting for some of you guys to go, wait a minute. James, what? Yeah, just keep reading, okay? Gave to some of them red caps and glass beads to put round their necks, to adorn them, and many other things of little value, which gave them great pleasure, and made them so much our friends that it was a marvel to see. They afterwards came to the ship's boats where we were swimming, and bringing us parrots, cotton threads, and skeins, darts, and many other things, and we exchanged them for other things that we gave them, such as glass beads and small bells. In fine, they took all, and gave what they had with good will. It appeared to me to be a race of people very poor in everything. They go as naked as when their mothers bore them, and so do the women. Although I do not see more than one young girl, all I saw were youths, none more than 30 years of age. They are very well made, with very handsome bodies and very good countenances. Their hair is short and coarse, almost like the hairs of a horse's tail. They wear the hairs brought down to the eyebrows, except a few locks behind which they wear long and never cut. They paint themselves black. They are the color of the Canarians, neither black nor white. Some paint themselves white, others red, others what colors they find. Some paint their faces, others the whole body, some only round the eyes, others only on the nose. They neither carry nor know anything of arms. For I showed them swords, and they took them by the blades, and cut themselves through ignorance. They have no iron, their darts being wands without iron, some of them having a fish's tooth at the end, and others being pointed in various ways. They are all of fair stature and size, with good laces and well made. I saw some with marks on their bodies, and I made signs to ask what it was, and they gave me to understand that people from other adjacent islands came with the intention of seizing them. and they defended themselves. This is the cannibal proof right here. I believed and still believe that they come here from the mainland to take them prisoners. They should be good servants and intelligent, for I observed that they quickly took in what was said to them, and I believed that they would easily be made Christians, as it appeared to me that they had no religion. Our Lord being pleased will take hence, at the time of my departure, 6 natives for your highness, that they may learn to speak. I saw no beast of any kind except parrots on the island. The above is the words of the admiral. The lack of understanding about weaponry, I think, is another big clue. On Sunday, he says, these people are very simple as regards to the use of arms, as your highness will see from the 7 that I caused to be taken, to bring home and learn our language in return, unless your highness should order them all to be brought to Castile, or to be kept as captives on the same island. For with 50 men they can all be subjugated and made to do what is required of them. There's a kind of ignorance here. And it's an ignorance you can't say that the natives of Cuba are ignorant about the fact that they are being taken captive or that their lives are in danger. You don't get to say that, well, James, they like the sloth, live in Cuba, and they have no natural predator. This is the Snuffleupagus if you missed last episode. No. They have a predator. It's the Caribs. They actively worry about their own safety. And then they have if it's Tano, sorry, I already forgot the right pronunciation, Tao Tracy, but if it's the Taínos, the Eastern people, much more advanced culture, we're already encroaching on them. I'm telling you, this is a psychological domestication that comes before you've been domesticated. There's a beast of burden kind of consciousness, a docile nature to the early mind. I didn't say that the early mind's not violent. I didn't say that the early mind can't rip a chicken apart or can't skin a deer better than all of us. I didn't say that the Neanderthal didn't gather in large collectives and render fat in a corporate business and invoke trade. All of these things are possible inside a simpler mind. Simpler mind. And this simpler mind looks at slavery as a kind of parasitic relationship. I'm talking about that word parasite, the nature word, where there's parasites everywhere. And the parasites aren't necessarily good or evil. It's just a necessary, natural way that nature interacts with itself. That you have a matriarchy, you have a patriarchy, you have a society of blue collar and white collar. You have a society of apprentices, of indentured servants, of slaves, of serfs, of employees, of enlisted men, of contractual general contractors, of normal contractors. All of these are different relationships that have some sort of parasitic or symbiotic, it's the same word, relationship with each other. And the reason why is because early man required this kind of social structure in order to survive, in order to build any colony. Any colony is going to have this kind of symbiotic nature to it. So the early psyche that we're talking about, the early psyche that Columbus is encountering, the fact that the natives... The anecdote, that the natives could or could not see the ships until they are explained to them is actually amplified and shown again in the way Christopher Columbus is viewing the New World. This is a guy that is convinced he's landed in China. I used to think that this was just a story, a hoax. And through looking at the psychology of this guy, This guy spent all of his time in Cuba, not a very large island, forcing his technology of belief to produce all the things that he was expecting to see in China. That map that he took, half of that was brand new, fresh off the pages from Marco Polo. Some brand new information. And this information comes with, it's a lore. Maps are, think about how powerful the magic of a fucking map is back then. It's hard to even imagine how much reverence you would give a map. I mean, reverence. And if you're carrying around that thing, if you've protected that thing from fires, if you killed people who tried to steal it, all the information in that map becomes even more real, becomes even more specifically real. You've got Columbus, who can only see a cosmology where half of it's just made up shit. That made up shit is honestly the only thing that even encouraged him to go on this routine. The entire voyage, his entire idea was a fraud. It's one thing to understand that he erased America. It's in my screenplay. Columbus didn't discover America, he erased it. It's quite another thing to understand that the eraser came because of his own inability to even see or conceptually understand where he was. Japan is, I think that one thing that he is not in his journals, after reading the journal of Christopher Columbus, I'm convinced that he was afraid he was in Japan. The only reason, the closest he could come to realizing that he was not on mainland China was the aperture telling itself, well, don't worry, if you're not on mainland China, maybe you're in Japan. In Japan, there was a huge argument about whether or not the island was north-south or was it east-west. And then you've got Cuba, this long island that runs east-west. And so he's looking for ninjas in Cuba. Columbus is looking for ninjas in Cuba. If he does not find ninjas in Cuba, Queen Isabella, King Ferdinand are very disappointed. Not only are they disappointed, every single thing that he has built his entire life on becomes a fraud. And when you think about this at first, when I first started to look at this, it still didn't make sense because he had been promised. They told Columbus, look, man, if you find any islands on your way to China, you're fucking governor of those. You become viceroy or some shit like that. You end up ruling these lands. So he had every incentive to find Cuba. He had every financial motivation you can imagine by calling all these islands new lands. Why did he not call them new lands? And you start to look at one thing that I think maybe is lost on us is the monopoly of the sea. That there's fucktards that are so stupid out there that they think that we can just say that if you're going to take a boat through the Strait of Hormuz, that only certain people can do that. It's this weird notion that sounds insane unless you have Wetiko, that you could actually control an entire sea passageway. But that proving that he had found a route to China was more valuable to Columbus than him claiming his own land, despite all the financial benefit he would have had by finding this own land. But even that's not enough, I think, to truly explain that this guy did not have the capacity to imagine all the authority this guy pulled from this map. It's encompassed inside a bilipid, hydrophobic cellular membrane, this circle around the earth. And all the continents are there. There can't be more, because all of his confidence, all of his technology of belief comes from this idea. He had to prove this, not because of the financial benefits, but because of the cosmological consequences of him not being able to hold on to this view anymore. The real revolution between Columbus and Cortez happens because of the aperture. This is Columbus opened the aperture of the world the same way COVID did. You have an old world that still sees it shaped like this. Kings and queens, all the pedophiles, see the world shaped like this, and they've invested their money, their maps, their control, their ownership. Keep in mind, Spain said, well, we own all this ocean, and Portugal, well, we own all this shit, and the Pope was saying, hey, well, by the way, I own all your souls, and everyone was telling each other what all they owned, and that all that would fall apart in a new world, a world where this is just 1/3 of the picture. 1/3 of the picture. If your cosmology could only see 7 colors, you would be colorblind. You would be sitting next to a friend you know, and you would not be able to discern the difference between red and green, but they could. And you're living in a world of superstition. You're living in a world where a meteor goes ripping through the sky, and it's like, dude, let's fucking rape pigs. Let's do shit. Let's burn things. Let's kill people. You start to see that this psychology is, I think, a part of the immune system. It's a part of the ego itself. Columbus did not have the ego that it took to be a Cortez. All of the money, all of the gold, all of the wealth, all of the passage, even the route to China, all it took was him sailing once around Cuba. This guy went 4 times to Cuba. 4 different passageways. Circled the entire island except for the Western Passage. Would not bring himself officially to simply navigate the remaining 5 to 16 nautical miles of waterway it would be to see that Cuba was an island. He went all the way to Havana. He circled all the way around to where I showed you the Tainar. Now he's in the southern tip of Cuba. I don't, just like the natives could not see the ships, Columbus could not see the new land. He didn't have the psychology necessary for it. And I'm proving that because it hurt him in every single way. Every single way. This guy went to prison. And you're looking at a psychology that just cannot comprehend, it has to see cannibals. It has to see one-eyed people. It has to see dogmen. If you don't know about the dogmen, we've discussed how Lupercalia, the founding of Rome, the dog star sees the Gemini twins. Romulus and Remus are the constellation Gemini, and when Gemini goes from Rome, only one of the twins, occults, goes under the horizon. The other one doesn't. So you have the idea of Romulus being immortal and Remus not being mortal. But that both these guys are raised on the dog star itself. The Sirius, the constellation, and Canis is this mythological representation that people were raised by wild dogs. These word wild dog means whore. So Rome was founded by a town of lawless whores, and that this would be a way of just seeing how psyche starts to formulate, where the frontal lobe starts to come online enough to where you can be and exist inside of a group, inside of a social group. The Homo sapiens sapien, that whole sapien sapien, the awareness of awareness, created this social mycelium link, this ability to formulate a deeper bond. That deeper bond happens through removing the olfactory, upping the sensation of emotions, the processing. So you have to dull the sensation of smell so that you can interpret those smells through a subtlety where you're allowed to lie to yourself about the room you're in, about the context you're in. This is, I think, all modern day anatomy, which will soon be discovered, where because of knowledge, because of what we talked about, what science is, you're learning the lore of something. We don't yet know that this is actually how it works, but you can see it in these different stories. You can see it in these passages. Let me see if I can... As soon as dawn broke, many of these people came to the beach, all youths. As I have said, all of good stature, a very handsome people. The hair is not curly, but loose and coarse. The forehead is broad. Their eyes are very beautiful and not small. They came to the ship in small canoes, made out of the trunk of a tree with a long boat, and all of one piece and wonderfully worked, considering the country. These are canoes large enough to hold 40 to 45 people. They have a city of 200,000 capitals, two capitals, right? You don't just, during all this, Tenochtitlan is fucking cooking. It's thriving, right? The Aztecs are thriving during all this. But it's not just there. Cholula, the world's largest pyramid, the pyramid no one talks about. Right? One of the oldest Toltecan sort of civilizations, some of the most, probably more advanced than the Taino, are sitting there waiting. And all the Taino or Tano, sorry, that's how I pronounce it, all these people in Cuba are telling Columbus that there is gold and that Orancachino, or this valley of Venezuela, that it's there, and the leader there has cups of gold. But see, He can't go south. Columbus can't do this because the cosmology won't allow him to. He comes back 4 times and he just keeps insisting. Guys, on his second voyage back, he made his entire crew sign an affidavit. He threatened to cut their tongues out if any of them said that Cuba was not mainland China. It became a religious doctrine. It was an inquisition on his boat where he threatened his crew. And it starts to paint a picture as to why the Santa Maria crashed. Why it crashed. I think that the mutiny on the boat is much more better understood as two psychologies clashing, two mindsets. It's Christmas morning. The sea apparently is still as glass. So still that the captain decides that the cabin boy can be in charge of the most expensive vessel they have, their entire lifeline, the entire ship keeping you alive in outer space, the Santa Maria. Bigger than the Pinta and the Nina, the largest vessel of all, and you're going to put a cabin boy in charge. And he ends up watching the ship aground. This is a story you're told. That he pulls the ship aground, and by morning, halfway through, they're signaling for help. They order one of the lifeboats. Columbus orders the lifeboat to go down. He's going to drop the lifeboat, put his strongest men in there. They're going to try and tug the Santa Maria off the beach. He puts him in there. One of the guys that he sends to lead it is actually the captain of the other vessel, or the owner of the Santa Maria himself. And what does he do? He heads for the Pinta. He leaves Columbus. He leaves him. I think you're looking at a huge psychological struggle where a lot of people were competing because they were seeing two completely different realities. Like, completely different. So much so that dude was willing to abandon his own boat to leave and go on other expeditions because there's like real stuff here. There's a real new place here. And this would be the only thing that would require, that would explain why he would force everyone to sign a blood contract to lie about this being China. This is not someone who thinks he's in China. This is someone who's afraid to even suggest the fear he has that I think I landed in Japan. And that if Hattie would have finished those last 12 nautical miles, he would have proved in his mind that he was in Japan. Do you see how loco that is? Like, he's so far away from this concept. And that you and I are watching this same kind of ignorance unfold. This is the white belt of ignorance. It keeps you safe. The same people that are bringing him fruit, that are, they understand these are weapons. They understand that there is something menacing about this. 7 people are taken captive right away. And when Cortez comes back, it doesn't get any better. You have these people that lack the conceptual psyche that it takes, the same way Columbus did, to simply not see the truth. He also showed them, let me see, the admiral showed the Indians some specimens of cinnamon and pepper he had brought from Castillo. And they knew it and said by signs that there was plenty in the vicinity, pointed to the southeast. He also showed them golden pearls, on which certain old men said that there's an infinite quantity in a place called Jolito, and that the people wore it on their necks, ears, arms, and legs, as well as pearls. So you have people in Columbus's crew being told these things. But you have a guy that's insisting, we have to find the ninjas, man. We got to prove we're in Japan. How do we prove we're actually not? Don't say Japan. How do we prove we're in China? How do I prove that? I need to find the dog-headed men. Oh, these guys said that the Caribs come to take them. Do you mean take them as in eat you? And they're like, yes, eat, yes. Do you want some plantains? And it's like, oh, eat, yeah. So he said yes, so he must be cannibal. What does Cortez do? He's got a translator. Columbus, that would be the worst thing you could give someone like Columbus. He wouldn't be able to handle that. It was June 12th, 1494. During his second voyage, Christopher Columbus forced every member of his crew, a total of approximately 80 people, across 3 ships to sign a formal document swearing that Cuba was part of the Asian mainland. The oath was administered while the fleet was anchored off Evangelista. The crew had to swear that Cuba was not an island but the mainland of China, then called Cathay, and that it was possibly to reach the greatest city of the Orient by traveling overland from here. Keep in mind, Orient and East, these are the same thing. I think we discussed this last time. Maybe we discussed it in Dojo, but guys, the original compass, north, is not maybe what you thought it is. North is typically meaning left. Why? Because you would face east, you would orient yourself to the sunrise, and north, the stillest star in the north, the one that's the most frozen, would be your North Star, which is your left-handed star, to your left. And you're looking at a psyche that was trying to change and come to grips with all of these changes to understanding, one of which is the New World. Here's the 4 voyages Columbus made. Only once did he really hit the mainland. I mean, technically his 4th voyage, but his 4th voyage, I don't really think he was in charge. It took someone else showing him that. All he could focus on was that. It was the closest thing he could find comfortable to himself. And he wanted to find new land. Believe it or not, the true person who discovered America was Rodrigo del Triana. It was this guy who at 2 a.m, aboard the Pinta, in the crow's nest of the Pinta. Pinta's a faster ship than the Santa Maria. So further ahead, probably. 2 a.m, he yells, land, tianda. And everyone on the crew, if you were the first to declare land, you would receive a lifetime pension from the crown. And Columbus says, "Oh yeah, I saw that last night. I didn't want to wake you guys. I saw it. I saw it, but it was so faint. I dared not. I didn't want to bug you guys. So he ends up getting the pension, taking the credit for it, basically. Rodrigo Triana is like a nobleman. He's got his shit together. He has a long, rich life. Really kind of felt burned by it. He ended up, I think he ended up in Australia doing stuff. Christopher Columbus's flagship ran aground on the sandbank on the reef off the northern coast of present-day Haiti in the early hours of Christmas Day, 1492. The accident occurred because the ship was being steered by an inexperienced cabin boy, a violation of Columbus's strict standing orders. On Christmas Eve, keep in mind, Columbus really wasn't the captain, okay? He's definitely in charge of the ship, but he's not like the dude that drives the ship. The owner of the ship drives the ship. On Christmas Eve, Columbus and his crew decided to rest. The watch officer or steersman, also wanting to sleep, handed the helm over to a cabin boy. Around midnight, with a dead calm sea and glassy water, currents carried the ship onto a sandbank. The ship struck the bank so gently that it was initially hardly felt, but the boys soon noticed the rudder grounding and shouted for the captain. Columbus rushed to the deck and ordered the ship's master, Juan de la Cosa, to launch a boat and set an anchor astern to help pull the ship off. However, the master and several seamen instead fled toward the caravel Nina. Caravel's kind of like a ship, just smaller than the Santa Maria. By the time help returned, the ship had swung broadside onto the reef, and the rising tide began opening its seams. Despite efforts to lighten the load by cutting away the mainmast and casting off cargo, the Santa Maria was declared a total loss by dawn. This cannot be what happened. It's interesting that Columbus wasn't the guy that said, "Hey, cabin boy, you're in charge," right? There's even like a watch officer places blame. This is like a Pete Hegseth kind of a thing, signal gate sort of a thing. Because the ship was beyond repair, Columbus ordered it dismantled to salvage its parts for its new mission. The timbers from the Santa Maria were used to build a wooden fort and outpost called La Navidad, named for the date of the wreck. Unable to fit the entire crew on the two remaining smaller ships, Columbus left approximately 39 sailors in the fort to establish the first European settlement in the New World. When he returned to Spain, when Columbus returned on his second voyage, the fort was burned to the ground and everybody was dead. The cabin boy stayed. Some people say that Columbus was being intelligent here, that he sank the boat on purpose because he wanted to establish the settlement. And I don't think this is true at all. I think you're looking at a guy that is in over his head with people that own the ship, people that have their own idea of why they're here and what it is that they're doing with their lives. And you have a competing nature, two different cosmologies battling each other. And the whole thing plays out in real time. Shaken by the disaster, let's see. It was in June 1494. Columbus reached the southern coast of Cuba, fearing he had only found another island rather than mainland of Asia. He forced his crew to sign, threatening to cut out their tongues. So, as I think this is a ripping apart of a ripping off of the blindfold of the psyche. Even though Leif Erikson, even though you have this long history of trade happening with this other continent, you don't have a psyche that's capable of understanding it. China, you can't really ignore, can you? In fact, China's giving you this stuff first, right? And more importantly, the Orient is different. You know, that the map was actually had the world north-south. See, the new stuff was on top. You and I see it as east-west now, But the entire world wasn't seen as east-west. It flipped. This was done after Columbus's voyage. And even then, this new world was seen as on top. We talk about quaternion identity, and I think the orientation, what happens inside your cell body, your zygote, when you're born, is you orient yourself around a cosmology. I was thinking this the other day. You know, when cops pulled you over, the first thing they ask for is your star chart. They do. You may not know that, but if you don't have your ID, they're going to want, well, what's your name? Where were you born? What's your date of birth? They want your star chart. They want to know where your orientation is because that's your identity. These two are the same. They're tied to the same thing. And here you have a culture that not only couldn't decide if it's Japan west or east, but is the map up and down or is it left right? You have all. Okay, I already told you about these stars. These are called the ship star, the sky nail. That's cool, right? The Phoenician star. The North Star was the one that stayed still to your left. I already said that. The South was, wait a minute. In many ancient languages, the word for north and left are actually the same. For example, Sanskrit, the word Uttara means both north and left. Old Irish, the word Tuath means both north and left-handed. Hebrew, the word Simul means left, but in the Bible it's frequently used to mean north. So the North Star was a North Star before we had a compass. Why? Because it was the left frozen star, wasn't it? It was a star frozen on the left. Other names include Ship Star, the Skip Stereo, the Sky Nail, Tevanapa, and the Phonike, the Phoenician star. This stuff's really cool. This is one of these compasses. I feel deja vu. If I've told you guys this before, forgive me. So like before China gave us the compass, but before they were even using it for ship's navigation, they were using it for feng shui. This is another example where you would think that feng shui is just, it's as like stylistically as where do you face your bed in your house, right? Or how do you orient your furniture? Like it sounds so advanced, like something that would happen much later in culture. And before we're actually sailing, we're using compasses for feng shui, that we use that first, which is basically just a lodestone placed on a brass plate, kind of shown like in this picture. And the lodestone would determine which way is south. China was much more concerned with which way is south. This is a fascinating thing about the Orient, right? The orientation. Why our identities are different has a lot to do with where our orientation is set. I don't just mean by the earth. I don't just mean by the poles, but by culture too. Christopher Columbus was set in an orientation that required that the world look like that map I showed you. It needed to look like that. He was willing to embrace a false map. He was willing to lie to the very people that allowed him to do this thing. He had to insist that he had found this route because it meant that Spain would somehow own the monopoly over this passageway, that the Atlantic Ocean would somehow become theirs. This is a psychopathic kind of popple sort of, it's not going to last, and it doesn't. It breaks down right away. The imperial gave birth to the capitalistic version of truth, right? It gave birth to it precisely because it was so righteous, precisely because it thought it could just simply decree this is the shape of the world. And you can't decree that, right? You can't do that. The differences between these two guys, Cortez and Columbus, is really profound. How much one was able to capitalize on it by simply having a psyche capable of imagining that this is a new place is big enough. But understanding the importance of having an interpreter, this seems like kind of like a duh. Like a big duh. And you're just looking at a much simpler kind of a psyche, I think. It's a bridge between the two. It's a bridge between the two. The Martin Alonso Pinzon, captain of the Pinta, eldest brother, respected navigator. His brother and him were, I think, a little bit more oriented towards the capitalistic nature. I want to go so far as to say I think capitalism has been the emergence out of imperialism. That the idea of commerce itself is finding worth in things that aren't necessarily royally decreed. Now, keep in mind that royalty really probably came from the grindstone, right? Like, seriously. Well, we have a millstone. We have a rock bigger than anyone else's rock, and we can grind your whatever. What do you got? You got wheat, you got corn, you got, whatever it is. Come here because we're the guys in charge. We've got the big stones. We've got the cojones, literally. So you're always going to have a center of knowledge based on just something that's hard, something that's so hard that it requires a monopoly to accomplish. I think this is really at the heart of why you see giant architecture, right? Not just like the pyramids of Egypt, but think about Cholula, this thriving complex, so big that the Spanish didn't even recognize which parts of it were actually man-made. It was just that big. It's like giant, huge. These are all movements into this psyche. I want to cover Cortez more next time. I want to, all the things that were happening in the fall of Tenochtitlan, I think is worthy of its own episode. And I hope that you can remember just how different these men were, despite being literally just 10 years apart. It's such a short time. And so much is different in the way these guys approached the New World. So we'll do that next time. Hope you guys have a great Friday. Cameron's traveling today, so we're not going to do Dojo. But if you want to join us for Saturday Night Ride tomorrow night, be a fun time. Looking forward to that. That's on our Dojo World channel. And we'll do Dojo Monday. I think Lori's probably set for that too. So hope you enjoyed this episode. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you got any side shoots here, or if you want to correct my pronunciation, or tell me some other ideas. I'd love to hear them. Appreciate you very much, and have a great Friday. Thanks.